I'm here to ask for prayers for my anger, the way I express my anger. I don't think that anger in and of itself is a negative thing. I think sometimes we should feel angry about things. When things are unjust or evil or just wrong, like anger is justified. There can be a righteous anger. And I think my anger often is righteous. But the way I go about expressing my righteous anger is often self-righteous. My ego gets involved, and I have a tendency to weaponize my tongue and embarrass people because I think they deserve it. And I'm going to put them in their place. And I act like a jackass. I want to have patience and grace. Even when someone else is failing to treat me kindly or with patience or with grace. I was at UPS today. I had two instances today where I lost my cool, I lost my head, and man, I felt really good in the moment, and then about 10 minutes later, I was really ashamed of myself. First off, that I gave my power away like that. Second off, that I acted in a way that is not all reflective of who I want to be or the way I want to conduct myself. I was triggered, and because I was triggered, acted unconsciously. And so I was at UPS, and the guy behind the counter there's no other way to say it, he was a jackass. He was rude. He spoke down to me. He spoke to me like I was an idiot for me asking a question very kindly, and just, that's his job, is to answer questions and provide customer service. And no one appreciates that, right? No one does. But I embarrassed this guy. I gave him a tongue lashing. I put him in his place. I let him know I'm not a person who will be spoken to that way, that I won't stand for it, that I'm not an idiot, and I called him a jackass, and I said some other things that were just, really clever and sharp and quick, and my ego loved it. I loved in that moment that I embarrassed this dude. And I think he did need to be called out, but not in that way. Like, I need to get a handle on that. And then I just dropped my friends off at the airport, and on the way back, I was sitting in traffic at a red light for quite a while, and there's a guy next to me, and he was staring at me, like, in a very creepy way, for a long time, and it's making me very uncomfortable. So I turned and I gave him a look of like, hey, like, okay, like, you stop looking at me now. Like, I even motioned, like, okay. And he just smirks, like, like he liked that I was bothered, and he continued to do it. And so finally I turned and I flipped him off. And I drove up a little ways, and then, he drove up. So he was even with me, and he continued to do it. Like, he was getting off on making me uncomfortable, and that's what's going on. And so I turned and I rolled down my window, and he, rolled down his window with a smirk on his face. And I told him, don't be a effing creep, And then I drove off. And I don't know, maybe that's exactly what he needed to hear. But the way that it came out of my mouth, the energy that I was feeling, I don't like that it upset me that much that I would. The vitriol, it poisons me when I get stirred up in this way. And so maybe I need to do some sort of intentional ceremony around this to release it and pray about it. And maybe that's what I'll do this evening. I'm dog sitting for a friend, and so I have her house to myself, and I have a lot of space and quiet, so maybe that's what I'll do. And the last couple of nights I've had really beautiful dreams, and Christ showed up for me in my dream. He showed up in a couple of dreams in the last week, and I was in the dream. I was talking to this woman. We were having a really deep conversation in this really dimly lit room, and then all of a sudden, like, the heavens parted, the sky opened up, and the light of heaven came pouring down and illuminated my entire body. And I was looking at myself, and a prayer is like written all over, or it's like it was being projected onto my body down through the light. And it said, God is with you. And then I don't know what all else it said, all the way down my body. And then at the end it said, Jesus Christ. And I woke up, and I was feeling such like awe and wonder, and just like, wow, like, our Creator is amazing. So I woke up with that. And I made a video right away of, like, for some reason I was inspired to make a video about how life is like this majestic, colossal mountain, and the goal of life is to make it to the top so that we can look out and around and down and see it all, the wholeness, the truth, the absolute totality of reality. And how when we're each born into this world, we're placed at different stratas, different levels, different elevations on the mountain, and those who are higher up are considered privileged, and those who are lower towards the bottom, they're considered unlucky. And I did this, this whole thing about that, and like the paths that are carved out for us versus the ones we make for ourselves, and free will, and my day was very inspired in the beginning, and then these two things happened, and I feel that I failed God today. Like, I had behaved very ungodly and unchristlike, like really missed the mark today. And so I want to do better. I want to be better. Prayers, please. And that's also just like, a confession. And I think it's good that we speak these things out loud and get them off our chest, and just own it and take responsibility when we mess up. Because I'm not perfect, obviously, none of us are. And when we don't speak about these things, when we don't own them and examine them, then they have a tendency to become things that we bury and carry shame around, and maybe they manifest as these certain kinds of behaviors that I'm talking about, that I'm engaging in, so I'm trying to just let it go. Maybe like these instances that, okay, what was going on? Like, I felt like this man was speaking down to me. He was speaking to me like I was stupid. Okay, so obviously there's something there inside of me. It's like there's a soft spot, like a tender spot there. Yeah, and in my childhood, like, there was a lot of that went on, being spoken down to. So, particularly by men. And then also, like, with this guy at the car, like, in the car, like, having my body disrespected, my physical boundaries, like being treated like an object, being sexualized. Just, okay, that's where that was. That's what that was about. So, yeah. I guess it makes sense that I would get triggered about things like that. Um, yeah, and their behaviors certainly aren't justified, but that's not the point. I don't have control over how other people behave. I only have control over how I respond, and I didn't respond at all. I just reacted. And I'm going to get a handle on that. Okay, thanks for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I don't know what day this is for you. It's Friday for me, and I plan on spending the entire weekend with my feet up, like literally with my feet up, elevated with ice on them, because I have hurt myself badly. I thought, like, oh, I just went gung ho with the running, like right out the gate. Didn't really like build up to a certain level. I just pushed myself really hard from the very beginning, and I didn't have the proper shoes, and I wore ankle weights, and now my Achilles tendons, both of them, are like horribly inflamed. Every bone in my foot feels like it's broken, and my knees hurt, and I just, okay, never doing that again. So I'm just gonna take it easy. Ice, 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 and maybe just watch some TV. I don't watch TV, but maybe some movies. I don't know if you have any recommendations. I was thinking about watching Westworld. I watched the first season of that when it came out, and I got hooked right away, and I just refused to let myself continue watching it because I didn't want to. I don't like to do that. I don't like to binge watch. It makes me feel like I'm wasting my life, and but now that I'm gonna be laid up for a few days, maybe I'll watch it. Okay, enough rambling. Bye, guys.